Xbox needs to comment on this right now. For anyone who's hung around the Xbox community, or Microsoft community, I should say, they've had communication issues for honestly as long as I can remember, way back all the way from the Windows Phone days and beyond. And the latest sort of iteration or manifestation of this is coming out of Team Xbox about what is an exclusive, what are the future plans, and as more information continues to hit the internet, Microsoft, and more specifically Xbox and Phil Spencer, has found themselves backed into a corner where they really and quite candidly need to come forward and start talking about what is the future of Xbox and the term exclusivity. Historically, we'd take that term to mean like, hey, if you want to play a particular title, Halo in this scenario, you've got to be owning an Xbox console for the end of time. Now, that's kind of stretched its limbs, if you will, and now means PC, but the muddying of the waters is only getting worse, and this year, maybe the past couple months, maybe not this year because it's only February 4th, it's gotten a little muddier. Remember, like when Indiana Jones was announced, it was like, hey, what is the future of that? And then what about Blade, right? Remember Blade hit the big scene and everyone's like, is this an Xbox exclusive? I mean, it's being made by an Xbox studio title, and it should be an exclusive, but we never really, it was, again, just a manifestation of this sort of communication issue that we've been experiencing from Microsoft. And unless you've been living under an exclusive rock for the past, 3-4 weeks, it's really kind of gotten blown up, and Microsoft really needs to come out and comment on this. So, we've been hearing things like the Sea of Thieves are going to be jumping over to PlayStation 5. And, if you're an Xbox loyalist, you can kind of rationalize that a little bit because Sea of Thieves 1 is not a new title by any means. It's been out for a long time. It's also a live service title, so the larger the community at the end of the day, the better things are going to be. So it's like, okay, this one's not that bad. That's fine. If Microsoft wants to do it, I'll be okay. And then there was Hi-Fi Rush, and somebody was able to data mine all the information about Hi-Fi Rush going to Switch and over to PlayStation. And again, if you're an Xbox fan, you're sitting here thinking, okay, that was like a minor title. It got shadow dropped. It's not a big brand title. And so maybe you can rationalize that again. It's like, okay, they got to make money, blah, 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 blah. But according to Xbox Era, out of the hot off the presses today, StarField is likely going to PlayStation 5 as well. Now, granted, this is coming from only one source, and Microsoft hasn't officially announced it. We haven't heard any leaks or anything else, but, somebody's got to be first, and Xbox Era is out of the gate saying Microsoft plans StarField launch on PlayStation 5. And this, my friends, is the one that is pushing everyone over the edge because StarField is a crown jewel for Xbox and Game Pass, right? This is something, it's like you're only supposed to be there. Bethesda talked about how hard they worked, how many years it took. Granted, now, it's not a game for everybody, and it's mostly a single-player experience, which really checks all the boxes for, hey, it shouldn't be on any other platform. Why did Microsoft spend roughly, $7 billion back a few years ago to pick up this studio? And now all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like Microsoft is planning to put this on the PlayStation? I mean, people already had to swallow the pill that, hey, it's going to PC as well. And, well, PlayStation is another part of that. And Xbox Era goes on to say some pretty interesting information. They say Microsoft are planning a launch for StarField on PlayStation 5 post the release of the already announced Shattered Space expansion for both Xbox and PC, which is on target to arrive at some point later this year. We've also been informed that Microsoft made additional investments in PlayStation 5 dev kits to support ongoing development efforts, adding fuel to the fire, that this is, in fact, going to be coming on over to PlayStation. And I think, if this pans out, Microsoft has found itself in a tough position right now because at the end of the day, even if this particular rumor is not doesn't manifest to be accurate, the Sea of Thieves is looking like that's pretty much happening. A number of sources, more than one have collaborated that. The Hi-Fi Rush data mine material suggests that things are happening and that this doesn't seem illogical. So Microsoft finds itself backed into a corner where they have to come out and talk in some capacity about what does it mean to be an Xbox exclusive, and are there going to be any more Xbox exclusives going forward, or these going to be timed exclusives, which kind of felt like the narrative that Microsoft has been pushing for a while, that like, hey, they will launch on Game Pass. Game Pass continues to be the best value, but the titles will eventually go elsewhere. And so to kind of manifest that, if you're saying, well, what else are they doing, Brad? Well, even just today, after the StarField stuff, The Verge has come out and said, look, Microsoft is also considering launching the Indiana Jones title, which has not even launched on Xbox yet, on bringing that to the PS5 not long after it is released. So again, you're looking at a potentially even less timed exclusive, under potentially a year, if you're on the PlayStation side. And so things are just kind of getting dicey about what is Xbox doing? They're backed into this corner through a narrative that they are not in control of. And if you're on a public relations team, this is the worst kind of scenario you're in, because Microsoft needs to find a way to comment on this, because you can imagine the scenario where, hey, it's like, okay, Hi-Fi Rush is legitimately happening, and maybe Sea of Thieves is happening, but like, you don't want to say that StarField isn't happening, or you don't want to come out and talk about Indiana Jones on the PlayStation 5, even though that might be happening. And so then they have to try to find a way to craft a statement that bobs and weaves the narrative to try to rein things back in about what is an exclusive, while not being inaccurate to the actual plans that are playing out. Because again, if you get caught lying, that is worse than just not sharing the information in its full, glory at the end of the day. The one thing I do want to point out is that Microsoft is a business to make money. At the end of the day, they did spend $70 billion to bring in Activision. They also spent multiple billions of dollars more to bring other studios in the house. And at this point, right, the shareholders and board of directors are looking at Xbox saying, look, guys, it is time for you to earn your worth and prove that these massive investments in the brand are actually going to materialize in a way that shows that you should be, at the table with the rest of the Microsoft brands. And so they've got to find ways to make additional money. And realistically, we all know the outlier here is like, well, just put it on PlayStation. You'll make a few $1 million. Imagine yourself a Phil Spencer, and you're saying like, look, okay, we got to grow revenue. I know that if I launch StarField on PlayStation 5, we could estimate we'll make another $50 to $75 million. Is that something you're going to turn away from when your board of directors and your leadership just said, here's $70 billion to buy a studio to help grow the Xbox brand? It is really quite hard to turn something down like that. And so these are the decisions that Xbox is finding itself in making. Now, on the flip side of that, they don't want to anger every single loyalist and fan who has invested money into a console, right? Because if you come out with the wrong narrative that they're trying to figure out how to craft, at the end of the day, you could swamp your own console sales, because it's like all of a sudden it's like, why would I buy an Xbox if I can just wait, 6 months or 6 to 12 months maximum to get the titles that I really want to play all on one platform? That could be a very serious and material impact to the brand. Now, there are people like myself, I don't see myself buying a PlayStation because all my friends have an Xbox, and maybe Microsoft is counting on that, but at the end of the day, at some point, like, people will switch, and they'll eventually be like, okay, well, if enough of my friends own a PlayStation, we'll just do it there, and we know we'll get Call of Duty and we'll get StarField and everything else. The only thing you really won't be getting, at least as of right now, is Xbox Game Pass. And so, yikes, Microsoft has found itself in a very tough position to try to clarify, like, what is going on. They could come out, I think at this point, none of us believe they're going to come out and say, nope, none of this is happening. Like, some of this is happening, some parts may not be true, but they need to come out and say something, because this narrative is not going away. Right now you have pretty much all the major titles. The only thing really missing potentially is Halo Infinite, right? Or Halo, I should say, the brand in general on PlayStation, which, let's be honest, it would probably sell a whole bunch if they brought the Master Chief Collection over to PlayStation. They'd probably make a whole bunch of money. There's other things, Forza, you could also toss into there. I don't know if Forza would sell as well, because there's other titles, comparable titles, over on the PlayStation side for that. So yeah, like the GT series and all that stuff. And so, Microsoft needs to come out and say something, because you can't ignore what is going on here. But I don't want to say it's like all doom and gloom in the Microsoft rumor mill. I do want to say that this one is kind of hilarious that has popped up. But this Microsoft's next Xbox release may lag behind Sony due to a delay in signing contracts with AMD. A leaker claims. That leaker claiming is not accurate. This is such a weird one to begin with, because contracts are so nefarious and hard to understand from an outsider's perspective. And the fact that Microsoft may or may not have signed a contract for the next gen one, despite the fact that Microsoft already has multiple contracts with AMD and already knows how to build consoles with AMD and has already done things with AMD, that is like the least of all the rumors that are floating around. I would put the least amount of weight possible into something like that having any material impact into whatever Microsoft may or may not be doing for its next generation console. Really, the focus of this is on the games, because Microsoft has built up an impressive studio catalog, and the first thing we're hearing now that they've got this impressive studio catalog is like, hey, we're bringing all these games to everything. And it kind of just breaks down the narrative that they use to kind of hype up their fan base about why you should buy an Xbox console, because that's starting to get eroded. So hopefully Microsoft will come out with a statement here in the near future. They're very clearly aware of the headlines that are going around. They're very clearly aware of everybody tagging Phil Spencer on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. So this isn't Microsoft just saying, oh, we had no idea. Like, they absolutely know. And so time will be the true arbiter here of what actually happens. But I suspect that Microsoft will come out. The matter of it really just kind of boils down to is when. So, as always, my friends, if you want to stay updated on everything happening in the world of Xbox and beyond, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because the only BS on this channel is me.